So what we got are a range of measures. You got the expulsion of 23 diplomats, which is considerably more than were expelled when Alexander Litvinenko was poisoned, which was 4. So that's to send a message that they're more serious this time. They haven't expelled the ambassador. They haven't broken off diplomatic relations. So again, it's a measured response. It's calculated that this is to show that we are serious. But at the same time, they're not seeking to rupture relations. They're also making symbolic gestures, such as the ministers and royals not attending the World Cup in Russia. In addition, there are other sanctions which seem to be targeted more on individuals. So you have the English or the British version of what might be called the Magnitsky Act, where you are targeting certain individuals who are linked to human rights violations and preventing them from travelling to the UK or banning or freezing their assets. So they're relatively limited sanctions against individuals, and again, a limitation on ties between Britain and Russia. She also mentioned, interestingly, that there would be other capabilities that she couldn't talk about publicly, and this perhaps indicates a willingness to use perhaps some cyber warfare capability.
Now, Theresa May said that there had been an unlawful use of force against the UK. Unlawful in what way?
Well, it's unlawful in the sense that you're using a weapon by the Russian state. That's what she specifically charged. The weapon in question, nerve gas, is a banned chemical weapon. The Chemical Weapons Convention outlaws the production and use of such chemicals. So for Russia simply to produce this chemical would be a violation of that convention, and its use also would be a violation of international law. If it were a case of war, we're not in a wartime situation, but if it were used in a war situation, then it would be a war crime.
Considering the severity of the accusation, doesn't Russia have a point when it asks for proof that it was involved?
Well, this is, of course, very much part of the political struggle that now goes on. It goes on in the Security Council, in particular with the meeting that's being convened. Who do you believe? Do you believe what Britain is saying? Do you believe what Russia is saying? Now, the Security Council is a political organ, and it makes a decision based on political decision-making. Who do you believe? Ultimately, in that particular organ, Russia will hold a veto and is likely to veto anything that is used against it. However, this makes it rather important that Britain engages, as indeed it is suggesting that it is engaging, with the Organisation for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, which is part of the Chemical Weapons Convention, and allowing their investigators to take part with the British investigation. If there's an independent international investigation into this, then that will carry a lot more weight. And what we can see moving forward is probably a lot more Security Council meetings under the parties of the Chemical Weapons Convention, in which they look at this report, and if there is an independent international report which backs up what Britain is saying, then that will give powerful support for calls for further sanctions.